Hello guys and welcome back to the Naissus Podcast.
Turesson. Turesson in Swedish.
Yeah.
So it can differ depending on who says it.
Yeah. Today we will be having a little bit of a different format from last time, where the first half of the episode was what we were expecting from the premiere episode of A Night of Seven Kingdom, to then jump over until after we've seen it. Today there will also be a before and after, but a different type of before and after. So I leave it to you.
Yeah, so the thing is, when it comes to this podcasting and everything, I've been doing this for several years, and you always think you have a plan and you know that you really want to go through with everything and show your passion and do it the way you would like. But sometimes the most fantastic thing comes in this thing called life. So this will actually be my second and my last episode.
Yeah.
Because I will, after many years of podcasting and doing Swedish YouTube stuff and some English as well, need to take some time off, focus on other stuff, going to focus on myself and my family for a while. And that's the way, because I need to follow the classical advice of the philosopher, French philosopher from the Renaissance. Yeah, Vin Diesel. It's all about family.
Exactly. We all remember him. Very wise man from the 16th century. I also, if we're supposed to find something fun in the Crow song, I would say that it's fitting for a Game of Thrones podcast.
Yep.
That you were killed off quick.
Yeah.
George R. R. Martin would approve. We have this wonderful character introduced in the first chapter, and then he's killed. But unlike being burned by the Red Witch to honor the Relore Fire Lord, you're leaving for the Night's Watch to take your vow, leaving the politics of the realm behind.
That's correct. I might even go beyond the wall. Who knows?
Jon Snow style.
Yeah.
Maybe we will find you in Crester's Keep one day, having rebuilt it into Turesson's Keep, filled with good mead. So in honor of your departure, we're actually drinking some mead, right?
Yeah, not right now. Yeah? Because now we have started to... I was thinking about how can we connect sitting and having a bit of a farewell and talking about fantasy as well. So I was thinking I can combine a lot of my knowledge with beers and mead and stuff, because in the Swedish version of everything I do, I've worked a lot with beverages of different kinds for several years. And
so here's a hard one for your listeners out there. It's called Dryckelsdravel.
Yeah.
So good luck finding that. But we can link it down in case you want to practice your Swedish.
Yeah, and a good tip there is just follow our instruction and just go down the route of having a lot of beverages, and then your Swedish suddenly improves.
Yeah, tenfold.
But I was starting to think, because usually when you read about beverages in fantasy, they're fantasy as well. They're usually their own stuff and their own way, because they have an ale or they have a beer or something. And what we're drinking now is a spontaneous fermented beer. So there's no yeast added to the beer itself. Okay. All the yeast comes from the natural. And that was the way before you actually know how to brew.
Yeah, exactly.
So before this, you usually used the magic stick, because the magic stick had the yeast on it, because that had been working for several hundred of years in the village.
And they didn't clean it, so...
No, because it was magic, and you don't clean magic.
That's true. But what did the church think about the magic stick?
So
didn't that border on witchcraft for them, or
sure, but it was the brewer stick, and
so it can
usually
be acceptable.
brewery was made in the home, and it was usually made by the madam of the house was in charge of the brewing. So it was a really dominated society by women for a very long time. And before that, even the monasteries have a long tradition of working with beverages, and beverages have always been around in different ways. So, but you didn't know what yeast is until we found out what yeast was, and that was around.
Exactly.
16.
Which also brings me back to a conversation I had with my father about fantasy when we were comparing, for example, the styles of Brandon Sanderson's magic systems and Tolkien and some other authors where magic is a bit more mystical. And I think my father said was that, in his opinion, things stop being magic when you understand how it works.
Sometimes.
Yeah, so for him, he said, like, if he's going to be into a magic system, he doesn't want it completely explained to him. He wants it to feel mystical. Like for the stick, for example. When you don't understand why this stick works, it becomes the magical brewing stick. When science have progressed to the level where we understand the yeasting process, and then it's no longer a magical stick. We know why the stick is working, and we know how we can exchange it with something more efficient. But when you're stuck in the realm of magic, then it's like, okay, we need to do this because we do not understand it.
Sure. And I was just thinking, but because if you look at most of the fantasy, it's almost like, not all, but mostly starting like a more of a medieval age, where the different types of beer and ales that would be produced probably isn't the ones that are described, because we have, of course, a modernized view of the beverages. I mean, we talk a lot of old drink. They drank wine because wine has been around for several thousands of years, but it's not the wine we know.
No, exactly. It has progressed over the years and changed.
Yeah, and you have clarity in the beverages today, and you know how to filter them, and during those ages, you couldn't just throw away stuff.
No, exactly.
You just did something with it. If it didn't work the way it was supposed to, you needed to find something.
Yeah,
that's why we have a Swedish word for during the wintertime. We have glögg, which is actually short from glödgat, which is when a stick is really hot. So usually we in the Scandinavian countries got a lot of the bad wines that had traveled a long way, and to make it taste good, you threw in a bunch of different spices. You took a hot stick and you put it in, and it heated the wine, and it started to take the flavors from the different spices.
That's cool. I didn't know that, actually.
So that's why the region that it has evolved later to the thing we have still like a tradition today. It's in the way in Germany they have the Glühwein. It's the different variation of it. But as we've shown you can't see, you don't have the pod vision yet.
Yeah.
but most of the bottles we have here have cork. So there is not like the regular bottles that have
screw cork. Is that how you say it in English, or hur säger man kapsyl?
Capsule.
Capsule, yeah. Caps from Fallout that are usually on the top of a bottle.
Yeah. But these ones have cork instead. Now we're going to the next level. Because this is the first one we drank is just regular flavor. This one is what they started to do in the next step, and that's add fruit. So you have the same different type of beer, but you added fruit in the process, so it will have a different type of sweetness but still.
Yeah, pull it closer to the mic so that I can hear you pouring here. Oh yeah, that's the good stuff. You can hear it.
Sure.
So for everybody at home now, pour up your best mead or beer that you have so that you can sit in with us.
Yeah, and this is a Belgian style that we're drinking right now. So it's called a lambic, and it's really special. It's sour in a way, because most of the beers during the old age was sour. And it was just interesting to just add a little brew stuff into the fantasy, because fantasy beers doesn't sound so beers from the medieval time.
Yeah, exactly.
And the same comes to the next thing we'll just brief discuss, and that's mead. Because mead wasn't drank a lot during a long time, because mead was really expensive to make.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point, because in a lot of fantasy, they're always drinking mead, which meant for me, who comes from the aspect of learning about these types of alcohol through literature and fictional literature, that gave me a viewpoint that mead was common as beer back then, and then for some reason it switched and beer became the new mead. But then you taught me that no, that's not true. Mead was something luxurious. It wasn't something every peasant drank every day.
No. And you might think that, oh, well, they drank beer. No, they didn't. They drank a completely different beverage. Still a fermented beverage, but it's more in Swedish. The old traditions has evolved, as it always does, and you have the continuation of it probably in the stuff that they drank during that is called, if you go to the medieval place in Visby, they have something called Gotlandsdricka.
Yeah, I've tried that. I always visit a medieval fair in Visby every year.
And as well you have the svagdricka, and that usually the way you enjoyed beverages every day. And that's the other stuff you could use with that wasn't that might sound a bit strange today, is that you usually also had, like, if you take svagdricka, which tastes more like a low alcoholic beer in a way.
Yeah.
Then you added milk as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because milk was pure and the alcohol and everything was pure without the bacteria, because you didn't drink water because water made you sick.
Exactly. That is why they in the medieval time drank more alcoholic beverages than we do today.
Yep.
But that also explains, because I remember there was a critique when Game of Thrones first aired on television, and it became such a huge success that even people who didn't regularly view fantasy or read fantasy watched the show.
Yep.
And a lot of them felt that, oh, why are they always drinking alcohol? They should be alcoholics, all of them. But from a historical perspective, that was pretty correct. They wouldn't sit drinking that much water, because clean water was even more rare and expensive.
Yeah. The most important thing is to know is that mostly the beers was around maybe 1 to 2%. So it's not like the strong beer we have today.
Exactly.
But beer has been around for thousands of years as well. So.
Yeah, like
beer,
wine.
I mean,
the Roman Empire drank a lot of wine as well. But
the thing is that there was beer in the Roman Empire. It was just that it wasn't classy. But there was beer around all over.
But I was thinking, like, if you compare a Roman senator or a legionary general with a medieval aristocrat, the wine these two drank, how different were they from each other when we separate it by the time span of the Roman Empire and medieval Europe?
So it's really hard, because wine depends on where they are and the grapes and the style of everything. But I would probably pretty similar, just depending on the country and where they were. Because the traditions that are, you can follow the wine tradition from maybe the old countries where today the country of Georgia, Armenia, those countries once were the birthplace of wine.
Yeah.
And they've traveled around the the Mediterranean. And,
Yeah.
But then you have so many other cultures always wanted to find their own way and their own stuff. So you have the beer was really big in the Americas long before even the Vikings found it. But that it was made by corn instead.
Yeah.
And you chewed the corn together and it fermented, and you had the rice wine
and
as well.
that's also a quick thing. I don't remember if I mentioned it in the last episode, but on the matter of corn, in Westeros there is corn.
Yep.
And there was one YouTuber who philosophized that he's not referring to American corn, but the original word for corn in British English, so that the world building was really deep and historical references. And then when he was almost done with that video, which was already like 4 hours long, he found an interview with George R. Martin where he is asked that exact question, where George answers, no, it's American corn. And he was, oh no, I made all like this video about how great of an offer he is. So then he switches and makes an additional 4 hours where he explains why it makes perfect sense that there's American corn in Westeros. So it's a really fun video because you get to see in real time how he builds this one argument and then switches to the second argument. And that brings me over to the next question, more connected with alcohol, which you're an expert in. How do you think you should deal with this subject in fantasy? So for someone who knows a lot about alcohol, so that it feels believable for you.
No, but I think the big thing is that it is a fantasy. It's its own world. It's like our world, but it's not
our world.
But it's not our world. So there could have been an invention where you could make a lot of honey and make a lot of mead. And I don't need that to explain. It's just in this world they drink a lot of mead. I just wanted to. So I don't really care in that case, in that sense. But it's fun to just point a bit at. Well, it's a luxurious drink, so maybe more of the nobles drink it,
or you want an explanation. If the common man drinks mead in this universe, what do the higher ups drink? Because it should be something different.
Or maybe it's just. During, let's say, this is the way in a sub place like these 4 cities combined and have a duchy.
Yeah,
where this is the tradition, but everyone else there's like the more normal.
Yeah, exactly.
So it depends on how you work around it and make it different. Because it's also fun if you look at many of the traveling stories, like you see the story of if you look at, we talked a lot of Game of Thrones, but even if you look at an author like Robert Jordan, it starts with familiar stuff, but you follow the different characters on their journey, and as the world grows, you find a different place in their traditions, and so that's the most important thing for me, is that you can't have a world where everything is the same.
Yeah, I agree.
It needs to be a living world.
Yeah,
because
living
otherwise,
and breeding with nuances and different cultures and implications of that.
Yeah, because then you can get lost in it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're reading a short story with a beginning, a middle, and an end, and you don't really care more than you want to get to the end. Especially in fantasy, for me anyway. So I think what they are drinking doesn't really matter, as long as different people are drinking different stuff, because the tradition should be different, because the world is...
Yes. And on that subject, speaking quickly about my own book world, I've also tried to delve into that because the world of Naissus consists of many different cultures and tribes that have to live under the same sort of confederation because of political reasons in the world. But I wanted all these cultures to feel distinct, not only in their names, their languages, the way they dress, but also in, for example, drink and food. So, for example, you have the largest culture group, the Lechians. They drink a lot of mead, and the most expensive thing you drink there is brandy. So the most powerful Lechian duke, he drinks a shit ton of brandy, on the point of being an alcoholic even for the medieval time.
Hey, the bison can take it.
Yeah. But on the other end of it, you have, for example, the Verdane culture, which drink a lot of wine. And since their duchy is situated next to the cursed dark forest, there's a special grape that grows at the outskirt of the cursed forest. And when you make that grape into a wine, the color of the wine is blueberry blue, almost like blueberry juice. Yeah. So they call it the blue wine. Sure. And they can't explain why that happens with that grape. They can only speculate that it's because of where it grows.
And you want to know something fun?
Yeah.
There actually are blue wines.
Oh, I've never seen them in real life. I thought I was unique here. Damn it.
There are blue wines, red wines, white wines. You have the rosés, which are almost a pinkish. You have orange wines. And you have green wines.
Yeah. So quick correction. So because this is a fantasy world, that is the only blue wine in this world that they have.
Of course.
Yeah.
But that's not. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I agree.
It's fun that you can. Sometimes reality is the biggest fantasy.
Yeah, exactly. The world is pretty amazing. And just to end on that note, for example, now I'm working on the final details of the final book in the Naissus Legends series. We will introduce more of a different culture called the Volsci of Volscigorod, which in their language means the land of the wolf or the people of the wolf, but they also refer to their homeland as the land of the Everfrost. So it's very cold, and they drink a lot of vodka. So they make the majority of the vodka, mostly they drink vodka. And since the rest of the culture are pretty racist against the Volsci, outside of Volscigorod, it's not viewed in favor to drink vodka. Because then you're basically one of those savage wolf people. So real civilized people don't drink vodka. It's nasty.
Sure. Could be, and it is so...
that brings me back to a question to you, the drinking expert. Racism and alcohol, can we see traces of that in the real world historically as well?
Sure.
That you had a negative view of certain drinks, being like, oh, you don't drink that. That means you're one of them and we don't like them, so you don't touch that.
Sure. And there's been many different versions of it but they're usually short-lived because the biggest thing is that even monkeys and elephants likes to get drunk in real life.
Okay.
It's so many animals to enjoy the fermented fruits that makes them go a little bit crazy. The only one I don't ever found out that likes alcohol that much are cats, but they like different stuff instead.
I have 2 cats at home and they've never been interested in any of my alcoholic beverages, but whipped cream, one of them is a big fan of that. The other one doesn't care at all. He only drinks water. He's a Puritan.
Yeah, but you should go if you have some extra time and go on to the YouTube and they're on the YouTube. You should check out Jaguars on Alaska. You will find.
I think we all have to check that out. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's big cats that having the time of their life.
Very dangerous.
Yep. But it's a different story. So when it comes to the racing, yeah, it has been a part of it, and it follows a bit of stereotypes. So it's not. It's the lesser kind of racism, if you know what I mean when I say that. Oh, these type of people drink that, but everybody still does. But
yeah,
but it has been prevalent. I mean, look at the Romans as we started.
Yeah,
you shouldn't drink beer because it's barbaric. it's beneath. It's the common.
Yeah, a true Roman citizen doesn't lower himself to the standard of beer.
Yeah, and he even doesn't sit. He lies down and drinks wine.
Yeah.
And
in a very relaxed bourgeois way.
Yeah, and the way they drank wine is they had a long divan or a bench where they lie, and they came and they refilled their cups, and they had like large, almost like a bowl.
Yeah.
And in the middle you had a large container with a bowl on the top of it, and the point was that you should drink, and during this time you didn't purify the alcohol the way we do now. So if you look at, I'm showing him that if you look at that one, you can see that there's a lot of sediment in the bottom.
Yeah.
And that was usually the way with wine as well, and you can even have some of the kernels and seeds from the wine still left. And so when you all was done and you have filtered it by yourself, you added the bowl and you try to whip so much of the leftovers into the middle where this big structure was. And if you succeeded to tip the bowl on the top, then you really was a good drinker. And everybody cheered, and you were the king for a while. And then the servants had to put it up as well. Yeah. But they didn't like. But of course the legionnaires drank beer as well.
Yeah, exactly.
But it wasn't a popular drink, and they looked down on the beer.
Yeah.
And that's the way it can be. You can have it both ways as well. Sometimes it's about race, sometimes it's about class.
Yeah.
But it's always different, and it changes. And because
but also that thing about class and social expectation. Because I remember when I had just turned 18, and were legally allowed to start drinking alcohol, and I wanted to be accepted by my father and his friend group. And they all drank this smoky whiskey, and I hated it. I hated the taste of it back then, but I still drank it because I wanted to be accepted. I wasn't confident enough in myself to say that, okay, you guys like this. This is not for me. I prefer something else to drink.
Sure.
So I mean, sometimes the room demands something of us, and it can sometimes be harder to reject that.
Yeah, and sometimes there's a lot of stigma as well to the way you prefer to do stuff. I myself is one of the persons that I don't really like strong alcohol.
Yeah,
I like it more if you mix it together, like in a drink or a cocktail. I'm not a fan of the drinking stuff pure, and you feel a long star. I don't care for it.
Yeah.
And everybody's trying to say, oh, but this one you should try. I've tried it. I can understand it. I can understand the nuances, the taste.
Yeah, but it's not your cup of tea.
But I don't like it.
Yeah.
I find it mostly like I'm a big interested in one of my passions is rum. So I really like rum. But you should know the amount of anger I can get when I explain that I buy this 20-year-old aged rum and I mix it with Coke. The amount of hate.
Just to clarify, Coca-Cola.
Yeah. Or Cuba Cola or something.
Yes, the Cuban as well.
But I try to explain to them, what do you think tastes better? A really good rum and Coke? Or just a rum and Coke? And I was like, yeah, that would be better, but you can't do that. I just did. And I will do it again, time after time. But so it could be a stigma where the Puritans defend its own alcohol as well. So it was just a point I wanted to make in when you look at it. That sometimes you look down on the alcohol, or it's like, this is a posh type of alcohol. Only the posh people drink.
Yeah.
Sherry or brandy used to be with like that wine as well.
Champagne also for a while was also something very aristocratic.
Of course.
I also remember like an old Russian thing that when the Tsardom collapsed and the Soviet Union first started forming, a lot of the members of the Bolsheviks, they were from a poor background. So when they raided the Tsar's palace and they found all this champagne, they didn't know that you were supposed to drink it out of champagne glasses. So they poured it up like if it was vodka and drank it like if it was vodka, because they assumed that this is some fancy type of vodka.
Sure.
And a few Bolsheviks, for example, Vladimir Lenin, which had a more upper class background, they didn't want to point anyone in the right direction, because it would remind them that, unlike you people, I'm not truly from the peasantry or the working class. I'm an intellectual or an aristocrat that has joined this movement. So, I mean, sometimes even alcohol can have a political undertone.
Of course. And that's as well when you have, they can have as well a religious undertone. Yeah. When you have some types of beverages that can only be made by priests or monks, and so there's so many different variations.
Yeah, for example, you won't commonly see the Pope, the Holy Father, drinking beer or vodka. Mostly it's Italian wine from the vineyards that are still owned or was owned by the Vatican. So yeah, in religion as well. And if you take it to the extreme, in Islam, you're not even allowed to drink alcohol. So you would never see an imam openly drink alcohol, because that would be against the rules of his faith. However, I'm a bit unsure if Judaism has any restrictions on alcohol. Yeah, if a rabbi can drink whatever he wants.
When it looks like we speak about, as we say that Islam is against alcohol. Yeah, it is, but it's not, because many of famous scientists that work with alcohol were from the Islamic religion, and you're actually allowed to drink alcohol, but not for your own benefit. When it comes to you want to
get drunk,
get drunk,
and
but there is a medicine way where it can be prescribed by a doctor to drink it, and then it's okay.
And also,
according to some of the scholars.
But you also have some of the same thing within Christianity, most types of Christianity, that you make a difference between eating, gluttony, drinking and overindulging in drinks. I mean, Christianity says that a lot of things are okay in moderation. The key is moderation, like you shouldn't drink yourself blackout drunk. Then a Catholic priest would say, okay, Emanuel, that wasn't very good. But if you can control your liquor, then he's fine with you drinking. But that's also interesting, because back in the day, before society became more enlightened, religion played a very big role in society, in our morality, in what was allowed. And you can also see that change from, again, back to the Roman time, what was condemned morally good, and then contrasted when Catholicism became dominant in Europe, and what then became considered morally good and bad.
Yeah, but that's also a bit of a... You have to remember, when we speak of the great Roman Empire, the Roman Empire collapsed long before we actually think that it did.
Yeah.
It's not the way we believe it, history. You need to know your history.
Exactly.
To know. And if you look at the pendular swing to the from the openly drinking society with the parties to the gods to the type of church that succeeded it, where moderation was everything, was also not all of the complete picture, because of mostly at the later date, when you look at we speak about moderation and we speak about these things, those were usually power moves.
Yeah,
it was moves about power. And when you look at, we speak about, there's a good thing about the first real purity laws about beverages was in Germany, where they have the Reinheitsgebot, the name of it, and that's the purity laws of making beer. So you couldn't add anything else than hops and water and malt. So those were the three. Of course, you couldn't add yeast as well because they didn't know what yeast was yet. So they updated those purity laws when we discovered yeast to make it okay. But the reason for this purity thing was, of course, not what we think was, they wanted to be the best for the people. No, they wanted to save a lot of the different types of stuff that you made beer with to make bread so they can go to war.
Yeah.
That was the real reason.
It's politics. But the reason why I wanted to switch a little bit from the conversation about beverages to religion is that when we connect that back to fantasy, in Lord of the Rings, the gods are real. You believe that there is something divine, there is magic, but there is never a formal religious structure. And Tolkien talked about that here it is like everybody agrees that Morgoth was real and gods from across the sea is real. So there's no need for a religious structure. Okay, I buy that. If we go to George R. Martin's Westeros and A Song of Ice and Fire, there are different religions, but he focuses mainly on the political aspects of religion. Sure. You don't get to know that much about the values of these religions, how they are practiced daily, how they affect morality and virtue in society. So something I tried focusing a lot on in my book world is to have all these aspects of religion, not just what is the power structure of the Church of Orion, but how do you practice the religion, how does it affect your morality and your virtue and what you believe to be good and bad, and what is just regular life for a practitioner of the religion. Because I think that a problem with how religion is portrayed in fantasy literature is that it's used just as a way to analyze political power, or it's just a backdrop, like window dressing. You never feel like this is a unique religion and this is how it affects this world and what you believe to be good or bad. It's either a cheap copy of, for example, Catholicism or Islam with just different names. But that's also hard, creating an entire religion. There's a reason why a lot of people believe in religions, because they're really thought through. They weren't invented overnight. I mean, if you disregard the conversation, if the Bible is a real account of history or just fiction, it's still a well-written book for its time.
Yeah, and it guides. Let's say we don't take the discussion if anything is real.
No. That's not the conversation we're having right now.
Because now we're just talking of the fantasy aspect.
Yeah, of the fantasy aspect.
And you look at that you have a book that for millions and billions of people give them guidance.
Yeah.
In their normal, sometimes really hard life.
Exactly.
It's the point that makes something that it could be just normal great.
Yeah.
So you have to really understand why a religion is a religion before you can try to incorporate a religion into your story.
Yeah.
Because
you need those aspects as well for it to feel like a real religion.
Sure. Or you have to do something else with it. Like the gods are real and you follow them as well and they do something else. So that you can take different spins on it, but as long as you know that you can't half-ass it. You need to have a plan, because otherwise you're just not even trying.
Exactly. And I feel where Martin did a great job at building out this political structure in Westeros, where you understand the system of the lords, the Lord Paramount, the crown, the small council, that you can understand the political system and the Machiavellian aspects of it, and you can believe it because it's well thought through and explained in the book. I have yet to see the same level of work with a religion in a fantasy book. Maybe you have seen it in some work that you have read or seen, but so far for myself, I've never felt that level of detail. As I say, it has only fallen in two categories. Either it's just wanting to throw a political insert at it, or it's just window dressing.
Sure. I get that. I think you need to check. The different authors make different choices and get different stories. And sometimes the gods are part of the stories with the closeness. Otherwise, sometimes the journey is more of a single journey.
Yeah.
And then you didn't need, then it could be a backdrop, and it's okay because the journey is about something else.
It's not a critique at other authors, more just something that I found missing, which also sort of contributed to me writing this fantasy world, because I wanted to shine more of a focus on the religious aspect.
I've read a lot of interesting fantasy books as well, where you take people on a different type of journey, and you make that journey from good to horrible, and horrible and back again to stories where you follow people during generations of struggles and turmoil in countries. So you can do so much. That's why fantasy is a fantastic genre.
Oh yeah, it's a hard genre to write because you have this extreme tapestry of freedom, but you can create something really beautiful. But it's a daunting task.
Yeah, and you need to know where and why, and you have to start ask yourself questions in the story.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just terror-pressure it, and it's a turtle. So who cares? Those are fun as well. So you don't always have to go and explain everything. Sometimes the explanation is there is no explanation as well. But I agree that to truly try to add a religion or several religions and different kinds of religion, you need to have the understanding of what a religion actually is before you can start to employ it to your own creation. So that's a big, interesting stuff. And I was thinking to parallel now, we've been talking about drinking and religion. We probably just have politics left, and we're like done all the no-nos in the...
in the fantasy and podcasting world.
So I think we skip politics and we go...
if you want to take on politics, read A Song of Ice and Fire, and you will have George R. R. Martin's view of medieval politics. So he's already covered it.
Sure. Or War of the Roses in the history books. Maybe the same. I don't know now.
He was completely original.
Well, inspired is a different thing.
But we can add that he did admit in an interview that when he started writing A Song of Ice and Fire, he was a big fan of alternative history. Sure. But to avoid being questioned by historians saying, well, you didn't take this into account, and if that happened, then this couldn't possibly have happened, to free himself of that, he decided to tackle the War of the Roses in a fictitious world. Where he won't have an army of historians from Oxford University and Harvard University up his back.
But I was thinking, because last time we watched some Knights of the Seven Kingdom, and as I understand, you're going to continue that.
Yes.
But you haven't seen the latest one yet?
No.
I won't give that much of a spoiler. But I just say that it builds, and you start to understand more of the troubles and tribulations that will start to enter the scene.
Okay, so we're ramping up the action.
We're building. They're building, and they're building in a good way.
Yeah, I look forward to viewing it, because you decided... for different reasons, to end your partnership with the podcast, we have found a replacement. So we will be watching it and then talking about it. So that will be the second half of this episode. So I will save introducing the new person so that one can introduce themselves.
Yeah, I'm looking at the time. It might even be the next episode. But
We'll see.
We'll see. in a later or the next.
Yeah, worst case scenario, you get the behemoth of episodes.
We're not done yet. So.
Yeah.
I'm saying this will be my last one, so why don't go out with a bang?
Yeah, and also, since we're big fans of George R. R. Martin, what was supposed to be 3 books became 7 books, and they became longer and longer, so we shared that with George R. R. Martin. We have an idea of length, but we can't keep with it.
Yeah, well,
and who knows, in 15 years, maybe you will be back on the show again, like the winds of winter.
Yeah, I'm just waiting to... When the book series is finished, I will come and summarize the complete...
Let's make that as a promise. If George R. R. Martin releases The Winds of Winter, you will return for a guest episode about your opinion.
Sure.
I think it's a pretty safe bet to take right now.
Yeah. Or should I wait until something spring?
something dark side.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking about... another thing before we turn over this page is we've spoken a lot of different types of fantasy, and I think I would be remiss if I don't recommend you to go on the journey to explore the different types of fantasy in the literal world as well, because we think of fantasy as just one thing, and it's so broad and everything. So it will interest me to hear when you go to the different types of if you go to the comedy side of fantasy with Terry Pratchett and stuff like that, or if you go into the high fantasy of Tolkien or the dark fantasy and everything between.
There's a big flora.
But I was thinking maybe we at least should do a recommendation of something.
Yeah,
that
sure.
Would be interesting. I think we have some more beer here as well.
Yes, I think perhaps we can do 5 each recommendations. They don't have to be books. They can be video games or TV shows, although they're mostly based on fantasy novels. But hey, sometimes there's something sort of original.
Sure.
Like the Underworld movies, where you basically steal from a role-playing game, but rename something and pretend it's your own thing completely.
Yeah, well, they made it their own eventually.
Yeah. So I think maybe I'll start so you get the last word, since you're the one departing, and because you're currently pouring up the next bottle. So I'm going to start with... my first entry into fantasy in my life was The Lord of the Rings as a child, when my father read the first book in the main series. So not the Hobbit, but the actual Lord of the Rings books. And we get to the chapter of Moria. And I loved it so much as a child that I repeatedly wanted to hear the chapter of Moria over and over. So dwarfs in fantasy, I guess it was in my childhood. That was deeply engineered into my brain. So I would recommend for people to read Tolkien. I know a lot of people have seen the movies, but the movies are not exactly the same thing as the books. So my first recommendation is The Lord of the Rings. Grandpa Tolkien is a great start to the high fantasy genre. My next recommendation, I'm going to switch to video games. Ooh, that sound. Nectars of the God. Is the video game Dragon Age Origins. It's not too old, graphic-wise. You can still enjoy it today. What was really unique about that fantasy game is that it's a role-playing game where you don't only pick what race you will be playing as, for example, dwarf or human or elf, but also your origin, where you're noble, where you're low-born. So it's both of those things, and it has actual sort of effects within the game.
Yeah.
Third, going back to books, I'm a huge Warhammer fan. I played a lot of Warhammer in my youth, and I really liked the Warhammer Fantasy books. So you have, now I don't remember the exact name, but the books are about a human and a dwarf going out on adventures together. Felix and something at G. Do you remember the name? Otherwise, I will check it up and put it in the description. It was like Felix and Cortash, something like that. Great fun books. They're tremendous chemistry. And the fun thing about Warhammer Fantasy is that it's a really shitty dark world. So things will never be perfect for these two, but they do the best they can. Felix is from an aristocratic family, and the dwarf, Cortash, something like that his name, has done something bad. So he's been sent out by the dwarven community to die an honorable death to restore his honor.
He's like a slayer, right?
Yeah, he's a slayer. So he's doing his best to die, but die gloriously. So he won't be dying by sheep shot, but he's looking forward to his death so that it can be honorable and restore his honor. Sure. That's 3. So final 2. Which one should I pick? It is difficult sometimes. I'm not gonna.
I mean, you could just relax, think about what Alistair and Morrigan would try to guide you to choose if they would. I think Alistair would make you try to choose a good and noble book, and I think Morrigan would go to a bit of the naughty side if you had
something dark and evil. With sorceresses with sticks. Yeah, I'm gonna take a small break, and it's your time to say 3, and then I'll come back with 2, and then you take your final 2.
Yeah, so the first one I would recommend, and I have already spoken a lot about it, but I would recommend you to check out Terry Pratchett, because sometimes you just need hilarious for a while. With silliness, but with everything from Highland Smurfs to how Australia actually got a platypus. I mean, it has everything in its strange and fun way, and you can go from it's more of fun books, and then it goes up to the little of the. Maybe the teen books, but doesn't go so serious at any time. So those are really fun, I think, and I would recommend them. There's loads of them. The Discworld series, it's usually called. I would also recommend to check out. This is not maybe as fantasy as you would think when we heard us spoke about all the different plots and high fantasy and everything, but you should grab yourself sometimes a stack of The Savage Sword of Conan, the comic, where you can go on and explore some brutal adventure with luscious, lovely ladies in the brutal world of Conan. And it's wonderful to know that this author was alone in his basement at his mother's and wrote these historical books about his fantasy of being a great, beautiful barbarian who got all the ladies. So it's so much fun, and I sometimes you don't need to take everything. The way everyone that thinks about Conan thinks about the muscle guy. And muscle guys are dumb, but Conan's not dumb. He's a really smart guy, and that's the fun thing. He's brutal, of course, but he's smart, and the perception plays with what you think you expect and what you get in different ways. So I would recommend this. And there's lots of Conan to watch. You can play games, but I would recommend the Dark Horse version of The Savage Sword of Conan. If I go to my third, I already know my number 5, so I would save that. But I would like to go and let's see. So many things. I think maybe you should try to check out. Well, I remember for me, Baldur's Gate.
Yeah.
The
Baldur's Gate,
first Baldur's Gate was to me the difference where, because I'm a bit older and
Yeah. 287, but who's counting?
yeah. So I remember when games used to be on one floppy disk, and then you got a bit bigger and bigger games and bigger games and bigger games. And I bought a point and click adventure game from Sierra, and I thought, this is crazy. It's 9 discs. This is huge. And then it started to get, and then just a couple of years later, Baldur's Gate arrived with 5 CDs of a game, and it was
epic.
Yeah, it was just a revolution in learning about going around, trying and finding stuff, and this was also before the walkthroughs and everything. So much was the word of mouth about you have friends that play the game and they have found this, and you started a new character just to go and see about that thing that they have seen on that place. So I would say the first Baldur's Gate. The second was really good as well, and then I haven't tried the third one because it's a new game, and I don't have the time to do everything.
Family and children and everything. But I would recommend it. I played it. Super fun game. I was super impressed by it. I had a really good time playing it.
Yeah.
So going back, I looked it up, and the name of the Warhammer Fantasy books I was talking about, the duo is named Gortek Gurnison and Felix Jaeger, are iconic Warhammer Fantasy characters. A dwarf slayer seeking a glorious death and his human chronicler. Together they battle monsters, demons and chaos across the old world, famously fighting alongside characters like Snorri No Spider and Ulrika. Their saga, written by multiple authors, is a staple of the Warhammer Chronicles. And some of the novels are called Troll Slayer, Skaven Slayer, and Shaman Slayer. So I can highly recommend those books. They're really well written, fun, and a good introduction to the Warhammer Fantasy universe. These days called just the Old World by Games Workshop.
Probably.
Yeah, because I went out from that universe, and when I came back, they had killed off my favorite franchise and replaced it with Age of Sigmar. So that's like going out on an adventure and coming home and hearing that somebody smashed your dog to death and replaced it with a new one.
With a donkey.
Yeah. Here's your golden retriever. Yeah, we sort of killed him. Here's a donkey. It's kind of a dog.
It's nice, but it's not the same. Sure.
So my final 2 recommendations are, of course, Andrei Sapkowski's The Witcher books. Really love them. Highly recommend if you've seen the TV show, which I like because I'm an extreme Witcher fan. I will love anything Witcher. But to get the peak Witcher, you have to read the books by Andrei Sapkowski. A good entry point is one of the novella collections, for example, The Sword of Destiny. You get a good feeling for Geralt of Rivia and the world. And my final recommendation is anything by the author Joe Abercrombie. You get the grimdark and you get the British banter humor. He has a very unique and fun style. I could recommend his latest book, The Devils.
Oh, interesting. So I'm thinking about. So I would like you to take a journey sometime when you have the time for it. It won't be a long journey, but only maybe, I would say maybe 10 hours or 8 hours or something. I would like you to go to the Steam and you should write yourself A Wolf Among Us. And you should go on a journey with the story tales of old where all the fantasy
Isn't
world.
that a Telltale game?
Sure, it is.
I've played that one actually.
And
Wolf Among Us, yeah.
all the stories lived happily in their different worlds, but their complete world was invaded by something, and they had to flee to our world. So it's the story with all the fables and all the different kinds of stories and fantasy characters that has had to survive in our grim, dark world of Manhattan.
Yeah, I remember that game. I have to replay it. It was so long ago. But I do remember they tried making a Game of Thrones game as well, but it flopped for them. I remember I played it, but it didn't hit as hard as Wolf Among Us did.
Well, they did a lot of game in a very short amount of time, and that was probably their undoing, I would say. Yeah. And they didn't evolve their type of engines and stuff. But I mean, if you look at the great games they made for the duration that they were, I mean, the first Walking Dead game is still a masterpiece. I would recommend everyone to play that. And The Wolf Among Us is as well fantastic.
Yeah.
I've played a lot of Telltale games. I like them. I think it's like instead of reading a story, you just play a story for a while.
Yeah, and that's the same thing for me with video games as well, and why I prefer role-playing games, because I want to feel like it's an interactive story. Yeah. I'm being told a story, but my choices matter. So an RPG game where you make choices, but in the end they don't matter at all, then I won't like the game. I want to feel like every action I take will have a consequence, just like in real life. That's when it becomes engaging for me.
Sure. And now to my last and final recommendation until the end of Winds of Winter. I would drag you to go and seek out the author, Catherine Kerr. So Catherine Kerr is the author. I might have... I don't remember if we spoke about it or if I spoke... I don't think I spoke about it in the podcast. But it's a story about a guy that promises something to the gods which he shouldn't have done.
Okay.
And they will hold him to it. And this is about his maybe 400-year journey to fulfill his destiny, which he squabbled the first time. And you follow his almost succeeding and then losing out again and again. And you get the reason why you're failing. And it's not always his fault, but sometimes it is. And you have to follow his journey. This is a journey over 4 books.
Okay.
And I really like it. After those 4 books, there will be a set of time around 80 years where different things happen. And then another 4 books continues the story in a different way. I'm not even going to speak about those. But the world that is built is so interesting, so unique, and that you follow characters reborn into new bodies in the reincarnation in together with the Celtic mythology. So it's a really Celtic vibe, but you get the elves and the humans and the different stuff and dragons and it's so much different stuff that's there, but it's not what you think.
Yeah.
And it's not what you really want. And people are not the way they should be all the time, because just because it's something that is true in real life doesn't really matter that in this world, this is the way it is. Yeah. And you have to just go along for the journey. So it's a magical book, one of my favorites. The first one is called Dagger Spell. And it's fantastic. It's one of my favorite books of all time. So, and a really good author, Catherine Kerr. So I recommend it. And as we're speaking, it's just been a couple of days since your latest book actually was published for Amazon, right?
Exactly. Part 5 in the Naissus Legend series, Threads in the Twilight, was just released. And last time I checked, it has gotten 2 reviews on Goodreads from some of the dedicated fans that has followed this series since it was first launched. Mostly positive, so that's always fun. It's always a dangerous thing as an author to look at the review pages. As a lot of people on BookTok says, book reviews are for readers, not authors. It's easy that you can get too invested into the reviews. So I try not to check it too often.
Yeah, but I mean, it always depends how many. I mean, it's a natural thing to want to know what other things about the work you're doing. But I mean, if you look like I think Brandon Sanderson is one of the biggest authors out there right now.
Yeah, definitely.
So, I mean, if he goes to Goodreads and it is 5,000 millions, I mean, he will click on the 5-star reviews and then those is what he will read.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it's the only thing he does, but I'm just saying.
I remember an interview with him when he was talking about that, and he said the 2-star reviews hurt the most because he interprets it as 1 star, but this wasn't meant for you, so I shouldn't care. It's like he doesn't read romance books, so for him a romance book will be a 1 star, but not because it's a bad book, just because it's not what he wants in literature. So he said the 2 stars are the one that hurts the most because he interprets the 2 star as I wanted to like this, but I didn't. So he hates them more.
Yeah, and I can get that. Yeah, I'm actually going home, but the thing is, in a while, I'm not going home right now. We're still doing the podcast. Don't worry. But I'm going home. And we actually have, I think there's a small place on beside my building where you can collect packages.
Yeah.
And I actually got a notice today that your newest book is waiting on me at the package.
That's going to be fun. See what you think about that one.
But I've been a bit busy and a bit stuck with all the personal stuff. So I'm currently at the 3rd book right now, and I haven't gotten that. I think I'm only a chapter in, but I'm working my way through it, and I'm a bit of a completionist, so I like to go
complete what you started.
Yeah, if there's a journey, you can't stop. Well, I can if it comes to TV series, but that's not a stop as well. I just sometimes I take a break.
Yeah,
and I watched the first 2 seasons of The Walking Dead, and I've took a break, and that's been a 20-year break now soon, I think, because I'm not keen on taking it up. But it wasn't that I hated it, but that sometimes my biggest problem is my character's journey that I found.
Yeah,
I find this is the best completion. This is my ending for this character.
Yeah, you don't need more after that.
Yeah, so and doesn't mean that it couldn't be better. It could be, probably is. But in my mind, sometimes I find that, okay, my journey was through this character I found that I liked the most. And when this happens, then I see the story ending. If I watch a new season, a new story will begin. And a new chapter, I need to find something new. But because I have found my own completion in my own strange way of thinking. Yeah. Sometimes I just stop in the middle of something because I found that my story, the way I
finished there. That was a good ending point for you.
Yeah.
In that journey.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we'll see, but that's mostly more about TV series.
Yeah.
I should say.
Also, we had one listener question that I received on the email we set up.
Sure.
From one of the most stalwart fans of the Naissus books, Huey Brown. She was also the first one to comment on the podcast. So thank you, Yui, for your support. It warms the soul to know that I have one true fan out there for these books. So at the days when I'm the most tired at writing, most exhausted, I always remind myself I made a commitment to people like Yui Brown to finish this. And I'm super happy that my books mean something for you. But she basically had a two-edged question, one for me and one for you.
Sure.
Her question to you was if you had read any of the Naissus books and what your take on them is so far, because she got the feeling that you have read a lot of fantasy literature. So I thought we started with that question from her.
Well, I have read a lot of fantasy literature, and I've read 2 of the Naissus books. Of these journeys, I'm starting my 3rd. I have all 5 already. And the way I see them is that the first book is an introduction that you need to start to get to know the world before the world or the story can take place.
Yeah.
So what I mean by that is I like the first book. I really like the second book. It's my favorite so far. But I wouldn't have liked the second book if I haven't read the first book. You need to start to get to know.
Connected.
You start to get to know the character, and when you start to get to know the character, then you can get working and find different stuff. And we have actually spoken a bit about my takes on different things that happen in the book. But I would say that the big thing for me is I like that the characters that I'm waiting to get to know right now is just starting to.
He's trying to open a really tight beer bottle right now, so that was why the focus was a bit.
If you look at the.
Yeah, the cork wasn't helping you much.
No, it wasn't. But
it was just, it just struck me that while I was watching you struggle, I was reminded that the listeners can't see it. So I have to describe this titanic battle, reminiscence of Zeus at the Olympic mountain.
Zeus and the plug in the...
the Titan plug.
Titan plug in the bathroom where he wants to have
or
taken
Kronos
a bath.
is holding it down and he has to pull it off.
Yeah, let
the
out
help
the bath
of
water.
Poseidon.
No, but I was saying I started to feel that when I started the third book, and as I said, I wanted to get a bit more into it before we discussed it, but it won't happen this time.
Yeah.
But the way I feel is that here we start to feel like you have 2 characters that actually can play off each other in a really good way.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the first book, the characters, and I don't mean this in the negative way, but there's so many, because the world is new.
Yeah.
You have to start explaining the world. And in explaining the world, you lose a bit of their characters' struggle in a way. Because when you continue into the next story, you feel like the characters actually grow.
Yeah.
And you get closer to them and you start to understand them a bit better. And that's what I really like to see in the third book, which I am at right now, is that when you have a new character that's entered the foil here and you see the dynamic that they're already expressing during their previous travels, then you have already started to lay a foundation that can be a 1-chapter foundation for the upcoming story to come.
Yeah. And I would agree with that structure that book 1 establishes the introduction to the world. And of course, I mean, sometimes in the writing process you can become a bit blinded with your work, and that you yourself as an author know everything about the characters. So if I could redo it, I would definitely write The Cursed Child a lot differently in its structure. And that's where something like Goodread helps, because then I could see, because when I started releasing the books, the first 5 parts were already done and finished. But as I saw the feedback from readers, I went in and fixed a couple of things, which made me think that, oh, maybe I need to tweak this, maybe I need to change that. And then I had a lot of time on me, so I could do that. But as you're saying, the function of book 1 is an introduction to the world and the setting. Book 2 gives more space and time to get to know Pavel. And then in book 3, we get his sidekick, his Robin to his Batman, Brother Ivan. And since we now know Pavel, I can give a lot of time explaining who is Ivan and what kind of character is he and how do he differ from Pavel and how do they strengthen each other. Yeah. And I mean, the end of book 2, the Grand Master of the Order gives a bit of an explanation of his thinking with pairing those two together. Yeah. One is a cynic, one is a believer. Together they can reach a middle.
Yeah, but what I really like about their dynamic when you really in the first chapter of the third book, you can see that even though they are not any way, shape or form the same type of, have the same belief system, they don't agree on anything, but they probably wouldn't like to do anything else than go around together just to prove the other one wrong.
Yeah.
And that's the essence where I got. And that chapter, the first chapter, could only be made on the foundation of the first 2 books.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's why I would like to have read more and explained more about different ideas that I have, but that's as far as I can go.
Yeah, but it's a good introduction for people listening who might want to give my books a shot. But just wrap up what you were saying. Yeah, sure, that's a big part of it. And the entire idea of the 6 books is that you get to follow the main character Pavel over the time span of 15 years. And when you sit down as an author and say, I'm going to explain a person's life over the span of 15 years, people change a lot over 15 years. If I look at myself, I'm 32. If I go back 15 years in time, I'm a completely different person. So you want that to go in there as well. How will these characters change over these years? Sure. And life is complicated. You don't fix all your problems in life. You don't become perfect in 15 years, but you do change. And hopefully, when all the parts are released and fans have read all of them, I hope they will feel that it was a believable journey and that it sets up the main series of novels that are coming later.
Yeah, and I get what you're saying. And I think everybody changed, except one friend I got. Her name was Camilla. But she still got a bit of a bite to her.
Yeah. Yeah. So the next question that was directed to me, which I kind of got into a little bit, was that you were asked how I was able to write these books in only 6 months. And the answer is, I didn't. I wrote them over a long time period. And originally I thought it was all going to be one single book. Then I realized lengthwise, and when I decided to self-publish, I stumbled across the strategy of rapid release, which is that you have finished books that you release rapidly. And this helps with the algorithm, it helps with getting the books out. People generally, not pointing fingers, don't have the same, how do you say,
Attention span?
Yeah, attention span. So you have to release it rapidly for them to not forget the books, so that you can get a sort of growth. And I bought into that strategy, and I felt that as one complete novel, it becomes too long. As 2 novels, I have to add some stuff. And I felt, but I could split this into 6 books, and I could get that to sort of work. So I tried that. Released the first, realized that it needed some more polish and work, found my editor, Morgan Wynne Jones, who helped me edit it, as well as the next novels. And so far we've been able to keep this timetable. So during these 6 months, it hasn't been writing entire novels. It's been going in and tweaking specific things, not changing the story, but more elevating certain things. And it's also easier when you have a dancing partner who can point out, like, I read this, I interpret it this way. Oh, that wasn't the intention. Oh, then maybe you need to tweak these things. Oh, you write this really good, but here I would like some more of this. And I would say that my partnership with Morgan has worked very well. He has truly understood the theme of the books, the characters, and helped me elevating things that me as an author has been blind to. And that is what traditionally published authors have as well. They get an editor from the publishing company, regardless if it's 4 books or Swedish Bonnier or Random Penguin House, they get an editor who helps them polish the book. But usually, the editors don't get any recognition. They're not named in the book. That was something I wanted to change, because I think that Morgan has contributed a lot and he's worked really hard. So therefore, I decided to list on Amazon and Goodreads and inside the book that he is the editor, because he's doing a tremendous job. And I think, apart from me, that he could have a great career as a professional editor. And maybe that would be a bit easier if you have something to point to and say, here I am credited, I have worked on these books. And not that it's some sort of secrets. I mean, George R. Martin has an editor. Brandon Sanderson has an editor. To Brandon's credit, he has often mentioned his editor and given praise to how much help the editor has been.
Yeah, and I think also that's a great point, because now we go into a bit of the stuff that we were planning on going into at later episodes.
Yeah.
But I think as we won't be doing that together, we can speak about it in a shorter form right now.
Yeah, sure.
And if there should be like this, if you for some reason should have a question that you really wanted my answer to, still send the mail, and I will get back with an answer anyway, so that won't...
Yeah, there will be a voice memo from the wall or a raven with an answer.
Yeah, I will send a raven or something.
Yeah.
Or a bottle.
Yeah, a raven with a bottle.
Yeah, sure.
But you have to pay for international shipping. No.
Raven Express.
Raven Express.
No, but one of the things we spoke about, or were planning to speak about, was because we had like not planned anything out, but we had always
a rough outline.
Yeah, ideas that we wanted to express, and one of those things was about the different ways of when. So I remember when fantasy was a different genre in Sweden, where it was actually, it had a renaissance in Sweden, and it actually, there was actually book clubs with just fantasy. So you can be part of a book club and you got like a pamphlet with books, and you had a monthly book, and every month there was a new book, but new books was also during that time really expensive. It was not that. So if let's translate it, I would say that a good book could be anything. If it was new, be somewhere around $30 to $40.
Yeah.
That would probably be $10 more if you translate it.
Yeah, with inflation.
Inflation and everything. But you got them for maybe 20 to 30 bucks because you were a member of the club.
Yeah.
And they know this is a guy that buys a lot of fantasy. So you got introduced to so many different authors because one author couldn't release every month. So it was always the latest release that you received. So you went and you got a Robin Hobb book. You started to read about the daughter of Paxanarion, or you read about the Sword of Truth with Raymond A. Feast. I think it's the author of that one. That was the enjoyment. That was a new book, but it also was a big investment during the time that you probably was maybe a teenager. You needed to save up for the really good books.
Yeah.
In a way, so you knew that these books are coming, and the way it worked in Sweden was also during this time they had the Wheel of Time books. And in Sweden, they released the Wheel of Time book, but they made every book that Robin Jordan wrote into 2 books. So we bought 2 books for every, and he wrote a lot of books. So the complete journey was 14 books, which in Sweden was 28 books. So, but the thing is, as you become a big fan, you actually switch languages. So I started to read in English.
Yeah.
Because it was a quicker access to the latest book in the series. And I actually got 2 at the same time I was like doing a lot of, but I think those books could be up to 700 crowns, which is about 800 bucks.
80 bucks.
80 bucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
No worries. We're drinking mead and beer. I can relate to what you're saying, and I think also a reason why I'm more comfortable writing in English than Swedish is because I've read more English than Swedish. I have a broader vocabulary in English. However, I'm not as used to speaking in English. So that is why, for those who have read my books, believe that I had this super talent at speaking English. No. I have a good talent at writing English, not necessarily speaking it. But I can agree with that. I also read mostly English literature. And I also found the English language more rich, to be honest, than the Swedish language. I think it sounds more cool in English than Swedish, honestly.
I think that's it's true in some ways.
Yeah.
But I also think, as I've gotten older, that's a bit of a thing of the youth as well. You don't want a traditional translated Swedish book in our own boring language. We want a new, exciting, exotic, where an I as well is a bit special. Read these books that no one else is reading in the way. I'm just speaking for myself now, so no one take offense to what I'm saying. But when I then started to read some Swedish books again, I find myself fascinated with translation, and even with translation of old books, the way they found words. So what I would recommend for you to do sometime is we read the old Swedish translation of The Lord of the Rings, and see how fantastic it has been translated during that time. So the translation sometimes is an interesting otherwise because
and also a future guest for the podcast that I had planned is a childhood friend of my father, B.O. Anderson. Mm-hmm. And already as a child, he had a big love for the English language. So in high school, he was getting super low grades at first at English tests because the English teacher said, he can't use the English language properly. But that was because he had such a deep understanding of Old English that he was answering questions with correct answer in the medieval age. And so his father had a meeting with the principal and explained, you can't say that he's bad at English, because he had been allowed to go to the Royal Library in Sweden and read an old Arthurian book from the medieval age that some modern English-speaking people can't understand because most of the words aren't used anymore, but he could translate it to Swedish. Going back into modern time, he also works with translating TV shows, and he actually translated some of the Game of Thrones episodes for HBO. So the reason why I wanted to bring him on as a guest is to talk about what it's like to subtitle a TV show, and especially what is the process when you're working with a TV show like Game of Thrones that is produced by a company like HBO. Because I've spoken about that with him privately, and it's a very fascinating process, how it works from receiving the episode to the directions they have. And when you hear those things, some of the translations click for you that you otherwise thought was bad translation, but when you realize, but you have these restrictions on how you're allowed to translate it, so that becomes the best version under the circumstances.
I'm going to explain something when after the episode, because it's not that interesting to go into translating to Swedish in this type of, but I was thinking there is a history of these fantasy books that spans generations of new fans and eras all the time, and that's why I think it's one of the most interesting genres there is. And I was just thinking about, there was a question there where if I've read the books, and you can actually read my thoughts about the books on Goodreads, because I usually try to give my honest thoughts about how I interpret the book on Goodreads.
Yeah.
And I've usually had to tell Markus, I've expressed my opinions on the latest book now.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay. And then I have to get a review of the review almost.
Yeah, because it cuts deeper when it's a person you know.
Yeah.
Because you can't reach out to a stranger online as an author. That would be a bit strange. So I can just ponder what people think on my own. I can't ask them.
Yeah, but that's no thing. And I'm always try to be honest, and I try to be myself. And as you might look, I probably have a bit of better writing than talking as well.
Yeah.
But that's natural, because we write, we listen, we read English, but we don't usually talk English. And it's like swimming. You need to practice all the time.
On a regular basis.
As we spoke on last episode, it was one of the reasons I was so interested in doing this, because I know that I've been neglecting my own vocabulary, both in accents and expressions.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think...
Yeah, but another funny thing about that is my girlfriend listened to the episode, and she's half American, and she sent over the episode to some of her American relatives in North Dakota, and got their take, and they said they speak perfect English. They sound like they're from Minnesota. So her North Dakota relative said, they just sound like they're from Minnesota. That's Minnesota English. I wouldn't have understood that they're Swedish. Which was a funny take, because I was worried that maybe our English is too bad. Apparently not, from an American perspective.
I would just have lots of angry people in Minnesota that will listen.
We talk a lot better than that. What is this? All love and respect to Minnesota. A lot of you have Swedish heritage, and we respect you.
That's why you might sound like us.
Yeah. Not impossible that you speak like this.
Yeah, but I was thinking that we'll see if the episode continues at a later date.
You never know.
Or if this will be the last for this time. But we're around 1.5 hours now.
Yeah, and I think it's a good point to wrap it up.
Yeah.
So from the Naissus Podcast, it's been lovely to have you here, and we wish you all luck on your journey to the wall. Watch out for the White Walkers.
Yeah, and I would just like to say thank you for listening. Hope you had a fun time for this time that I was a part of it, before I was suddenly kicked off and killed.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But I just want to say keep reading.
Yes.
Ja, behöver inte spela någon, nu spelar ingen roll nu bara.